And we are back with Lisa Waters Lane. She comes each week with your garden question. Just what are your neighbors talking about? And we'll see if we can share that and get some insight into it, because it's not just you, it's the whole neighborhood is seeing the same issues. Lisa,
Yes.
welcome to the studio.
Thank you. Always good to be here.
Really?
Yeah.
So, I actually enjoy getting behind the microphone, jumping in the
Yes, you
studio,
do.
producing shows,
Mhm.
getting the video, getting intros, exits, doing radio ads. And Lisa is like pulling teeth, getting her out of her flowers
I
and
wouldn't
coming in. And
say. Pulling teeth is a bit strong, but
it's
yes.
very difficult to get her in here to slow down enough to come record it, to share her knowledge.
My knowledge. Okay, so this is the Q&A portion of the show.
Yeah.
Okay, are we ready to Q&A?
Yeah. I'm all ready. I'm all ears and microphone.
Okay. Well, our first question is from Jamie in Prescott. She has several crepe myrtles and butterfly bush in her yard. So they've kind of bloomed out or in the process of blooming out. Her question is, should she trim off the blooms? And if she trims off, will they re-bloom?
So crepe myrtles, kind of all. So flowering things, no matter what it is, if you're in question, you can pick the spent flower off, and many times they will reflower for you. So like sunflowers, the big ones probably not so much, but your smaller sunflowers, you pick you deadhead it, it'll rebloom. There's several that have 1,000 flowers on them per season. Butterfly bush, as they have that spent panicle, you can pick that off. It will set another flower. So if in doubt, pick it out. So that's kind of my advice for you. Crepe myrtles, though, they generally do not rebloom. They can set more blossoms throughout the bush and have waves of blooms, but that one branch that had that flower on it, you deadhead that, and probably it's just going to be a beautiful, luscious shrub. So enjoy that. I tend to keep those little round bean pods, or not bean pods, round seed pods. They're pretty. So I know the flower forms that little, what do you call it? Like pearls on the end of a branch. Keep those on. And in fact, if they're out in the front yard where it's kind of centrally located, you could spray paint them red and green and gold and add glitter. And they're now all of a sudden, when they're deciduous this winter, they're now a Christmas ornament.
I'm not sure about that.
That's a bit extreme, but they can be done that way.
You're not allowed to do that to art.
I've seen agaves where people will take the spikes on the end of agaves or century plant. They'll take gold balls and stick them on the end of those prongs in a pot. So you can have fun with your plants, but specifically to, who was it? Jamie's question. Yes, you can get butterfly bush to rebloom. Crepe myrtles, no, you can't. But if in doubt, pick it out.
We'll talk about that later. Okay. Next question is from Deanne in Prescott Valley. She's considering putting thyme around her stepping stones on the side of her house. It's a full sun spot. She wants to know how often after it's established, like down the road, how much water it's going to need, and does it go dormant in the wintertime?
So creeping thyme is often used. So we have a thyme lawn. It is glorious right now with all the rain we've had. We've had a couple rains just in the last week, 10 days. So it's kind of got to add some moisture. We've got underground irrigation that runs twice a week right now. With the rain, it's really lush, green, beautiful, starting to bloom. It's up just shy of ankle high. The dogs love it. It doesn't spot. We mow it twice a year. It's just super easy to maintain. We also use it in between pavers around patios because it stays low and then it kind of spreads and creeps. And so most winters, it is evergreen. If you get a really harsh, it goes sub-zero, it can look a little rough in the winter, but it still has something I know that time. I know it's there. It just doesn't look as good as it did like in the monsoon season. But it's generally going to have foliage on it. You could probably start walking on it as soon as it's rooted, as soon as you can't pull up the plug, or as soon as the plants look like they're kind of established, you can start walking on it. And it takes foot traffic really, really
Right.
well. So creeping thyme loves our sun. It reseeds, comes up other places. Super easy to care for. If you
Mhm.
miss a water and it gets damaged, it'll self-repair. It does really. It's really a great
It
little,
is. It's
great
very
little
tough.
plant.
And you're right. We have creeping thyme in our yard,
Right.
but there's also magic carpet, pink chintz. There's probably 4 or 5 different kinds of
Oh, yeah.
thyme that you can use, and all of them perform really well.
Yeah, I can't tell that much. You got the woolly thyme, which stays crazy small.
Right.
It's almost too. It's not as aggressive. It's almost too small. But
Almost
for
like
a
a
lawn,
moss.
like a lawn setting,
Mhm.
the creeping varieties tend to creep and run and repair themselves a little easier.
True.
It's fun to play with. They're good at the front of edge of containers, and they kind of
Mhm.
spill over. So have a fig with creeping thyme around it in a
Mhm.
pot. Beautiful Mediterranean look.
Yeah.
So there's some style you can add to it. But creeping thyme, all time, how do you spell thyme?
THYME.
YMES. Creeping thyme. It's an herb. So you know your animals aren't
Right.
going to bother it. So
Yeah.
rats and mice and squirrels and
Bunnies
javelina and deer and
Mhm.
rabbits, they're not going to bother it because they don't like herbs.
Right.
Our dogs seem to like to roll around in it, and they come back and they
Mhm.
smell
Like thyme.
herbally. Yeah, they smell like they've had a spa day.
Yes, that is true.
So good question.
All right. Our next question is from Erin in Prescott. She had to have a tree cut down in her yard. She had them leave about 4 foot of trunk on there, and she would like to plant a vine that would go up around the stump. It
Easy.
gets a fair
Yeah.
amount of sun.
Yeah.
She wants to know what you would recommend.
Yeah, so that one's a super easy one, Aaron. I mean, there's so many choices. I would say come in and take a look because we have a lot of good choices here right
Mhm.
now. But I'd say number one seller, well, it depends on the season. Honeysuckle has been very popular through spring.
Mhm.
Now we're starting to have trumpet vine, which is starting to show that big red flower you're seeing around town. That would grow there quite nicely as well. So look at honeysuckle, trumpet vine. Of course, the native that grows wild here, Virginia creeper.
Mhm.
That's a great hardy one. Once you get it established, it'll just go by itself. It might look better with a little bit of care from the gardener, but
Mhm.
it will go by itself. There's some, what else? A 5-leaf akebia.
Yeah.
If you want something really aggressive, almost too aggressive, a little 4 foot. If it were a 20-foot
Yeah.
trunk, maybe it would be good, but 4-footer, maybe look at honeysuckle, trumpet vine,
Mhm.
Virginia creeper, and I'm sure there's more.
In the trumpet vine, we have Babella's Sunset, which is that orangey red. We also have one called Flava, which is the yellow, which is actually really pretty.
Very pretty. And hummingbirds like them both. They don't care. The hummingbirds are colorblind. If it's trumpet shaped, they're after it. Color, yeah, that's kind of secondary. They're looking for the shape for their beak and stuff,
Mhm.
but both very robust, full
Mhm.
sun. Again, animals generally leave those types
Mhm.
of plants alone.
Right.
And if they do get eaten, they easily repair themselves because they grow so fast.
That's true.
So plant it now, and probably by this time next year, you won't have a trunk. You'll just have this beautiful flowering
Mhm.
vine sitting there.
And there's also different types of honeysuckle. So I think you were probably thinking the Hall's honeysuckle, which has that really yellow and white, very fragrant.
Yeah.
But we also have Wheeler Eye, which is a orange little trumpet flower. Hummingbirds love that one.
Yeah.
I think we have, is it lemonade, or the other one has a really pink and orange and yellow blossom to it
It's
too.
lemonade. Yeah.
And then purple leaf honeysuckle. So there's more than just one kind.
Like I said, Aaron, you need to come into the garden center, take a look. And this is advice for Sedona, Camp Verde, Cottonwood, Jerome, over the hill to Cordes Junction, Dewey, Humboldt, Prescott Valley, all the way up the valley to Paulden, Prescott, of course. And then you jump over to Skull Valley, Hillside, Kirkland. We're all the same. I mean, it's
named
just
them all
us.
off, honey.
The
It's funny.
Central Highlands. It works for
You know
us.
you're going to forget somebody.
I
and
know. I
someone's gonna-
insulted someone.
They didn't mention Crown
Poor-
King.
The poor folks from Groom Creek. We just left them out again. That's because of all those bears out there. Anyway, never mind. We have to say bears don't eat trumpet vine. You're good.
Yeah.
Ken and Lisa Lane, the Mountain Gardeners. Be right back after this.